We're joined by Prime Minister Abe. And as you said in the news conference today, this is an issue that has split public opinion in our country in two, so I think it was a very difficult decision to make. And today, you announced a decision for Japan to join the TPP talks. Why?
Once the TPP talks have begun and already 2 years have transpired, the countries have announced their participation, have already entered into talks, and talks on some fields have already proceeded. U.S. President Obama indicated that he wants a settlement by year-end. Unless a decision is made early, Japan will be left out of the discussion on setting the rules for participation. This is a free economic area in the Asia-Pacific region. It is a formidable challenge. Following the TPP, there are the Comprehensive Economic Partnership as well as the Free Trade Area of the Asia-Pacific region that will be based on the TPP. Unless we are able to participate in the TPP, we will lose all opportunities to follow. A decision has to be made now. And there will be a next set of discussions to be held in July where rules will be set. We needed to make the decision now.
Joining in the rulemaking, specifically, what do you mean?
Discussions on tariffs will be conducted. There are circumstances that are specific to each country, and we need to study the conditions based on which rules will be decided. And also discussions will have to be made on non-tariff barriers as well. Japan needs to protect its national interests. Unless we are a participant in the talks, we will not be permitted a voice. And after the rules are decided, Japan is not in a position to undo what has been decided. In that case, Japan will not be able to protect its national interests. It is therefore crucial, given that in international society, we are about to enter into a free economic arrangement where we are trying to enhance national interests. Japan will be left behind. There's no time to waste. And I have rendered my decision today. It is important that we have the negotiating power to produce results.
So you will protect the sensitive items, the items that should be protected, and the LDP pledged to protect the fundamentals of Japan. So you are very resolved about this.
As we enter into the TPP talks, there will be a large economic area that covers the Asia-Pacific region where goods, people, and also capital will flow freely, and this will offer benefits to Japan. However, there are areas that also need to be protected. That is to say, this is a protected agricultural area and also employment and food. Measures need to be taken, and we need to produce results from the talks. Every measure at our avail will be taken.
So certain effects are possible, but the benefits of promoting free trade are bigger. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, in post-war Japan, under free trade, we were committed to growing the country as a country based on trade, and we are number 3 in the world in terms of GDP. That is the status we have achieved. This will continue. We do not have natural resources. We must export in order to earn a revenue. And this will remain unchanged for Japan, and therefore free trade will serve as a benefit for Japan. This is my policy, but even then, what needs to be protected must be protected. Agriculture as an industry will be reinforced. Japan has many functions to protect the environment, regions, and also culture and tradition. These facets must be protected. And in terms of industry, even while the rural area does not have high productivity, we still need to protect the landscape. And as an industry, we need to reinforce the industry to protect what must be protected.
And your fundamental position will be reflected and will be challenged in the future negotiations. As for the timetable for the future negotiations, can we see it up on the screen?
Multilateral negotiations are scheduled for May, but Japan will not be able to take part in them. Japan needs the consent of participating nations in order to join TPP negotiations. The United States has said it requires at least 90 days for the Congress to take a vote on the issue after the government notifies Capitol Hill. This means Japan will not be able to join the talks before June.
The notification will be conducted today, and there will be responses from relevant participating countries. We will have made an effort to seek a favorable response, and this involves a multiple number of countries outside of the United States. Many of these countries are in Asia. They share in the mindset of Japan, and these are countries that Japan has supported or contributed by way of ODA. We will collaborate where we need to as we put ourselves to the negotiating table. The United States is an ally. We have the largest economy and the third largest economy being Japan by way of GDP. Together we are committed to creating a new economic area, and I think this serves important strategic meaning. Japan and the United States, democracy, and these are values that are common to these countries. Japan must play a role and must exert leadership in order to create the free economic area, which will hold a new significance.
After the economy, today the Diet approved of the appointments for the governor of the BOJ and the deputy governors.
Shares in Tokyo are continuing to rise, boosted by the economic policies announced by the Prime Minister, which have been nicknamed Abenomics. Today, the Nikkei average rose above the 12,500 level.
People are feeling that, the people who are feeling that their assets have increased, they will be spending more. So we'll see more people in department stores, and high-end products will sell better. And that will disseminate throughout the consumer's market. And when stock prices drop, the opposite effects will appear. So some people may think it's irrelevant to them, but the rise in stock prices, the benefits of that, will spread and trickle down to a wide range of people. I'm convinced about that.
In the labor offensive, major companies have decided to raise wages across the board. I'm sure you welcome this.
It usually takes time for the upturn in the economy to appear in wages, but this time we can't afford to wait. So I asked companies to increase wages. So even before profits start to rise, to pull up wages for their employees, because that will help to pick up consumerism. And a better consumption will also be good for our company employers too.
There's a friend working in a bank in Nagoya, and with wages rising in major companies, this is reflected in leading indicators. However, when it comes to the small and medium-sized companies, it takes a little more time. There's a time lag, and we need to be prepared.
Yes, there is inevitably a time lag, but until we go through this phase, we cannot we cannot increase the wages of people in the small to medium-sized enterprises. So we need to start at the big companies, and then we have to make our efforts so that the good economic benefits will reach the workers in the smaller enterprises. And depending on the company, some companies increased the wages of their non-regular workers, so we do have good expectations to be resolved.
There are the three arrows attributed to Abenomics. The third is a growth strategy, which is increasingly important. However, for this to materialize, more time is required. We talked about the TPP, and you have announced that we will participate in the talks, and this is also part of the growth strategy.
Of course, this will be a very positive factor for the growth strategy. Japan's population is going to decrease, but the population in the TPP zone will continue to increase. So we need to capitalize on this growth, the population growth in the region, and use it to help Japan's growth. And in the growth strategy, for example, healthcare, we want a society where people can live long and live healthily. So with this vision in mind, we will develop a growth strategy. Japan's healthcare and nursing care is the best in the world. So we want to refine that so we can export that to other parts of the world, such as the TPP area. And there'll be maybe people coming into Japan to seek healthcare services. And the IPS cell has been discovered. Dr. Yamanaka won the Nobel Prize. But to cultivate the IPS cells, if we do that in the universities, that will not develop into an industry. So we need to do that in the industrial sector. And to be able to do that, we need to take deregulatory measures, and we need to put legislation in place so that we can make IPS into an industry which can be participated in by corporations, and that will be good for the health of our citizens, and it will also be a way to generate new wealth. And we should increase the number of certification institutions into the private sector, and that should lead to more growth.
Even while we find the ramifications from the nuclear power accident, you're ready to reinstate the policy of nuclear power generation.
Currently, in our Nuclear Regulation Committee, we're putting in place, or we're drawing up, the most rigorous sets of regulations in the world. And based on these criteria, the scientists will decide which nuclear power reactors are safe and which are not. And the ones which are judged safe will be put into motion. And at the same time, we'll be developing alternative forms of renewable forms of energy, solar power, wind, and the government will make investments, and we can expect new innovations like methane hydrate. We will develop our own sources of energy. So we will continue earnestly to develop other forms of energy which can one day replace nuclear power. So that will be going on at the same time. So we will take the next decade to compose the best mix of energy. And some people say that 10 years is too long, but the research of energy sources does not produce results so easily. For example, nuclear fusion, we've been spending a lot of time and money on that, but that takes a long time, 7 or 8 years. And if that works well, we may be able to obtain large amounts of energy, but we still don't have that yet. And while we don't have alternative forms like that, although we experienced that terrible accident, we also acquired the wisdom and the expertise of enhancing safety. So I don't think we need to abandon nuclear power altogether, because we need to we need to secure a stable supply of energy, or Japan's economy cannot grow. Our population is decreasing. Our population is aging. In order to grow economically, we need a stable supply of energy that is not expensive. And in our growth strategy, also, in the energy sector, we want a liberalization of the electrical power market, and deregulatory measures for that will be set in motion. We have decided that it's one of the main pillars of our growth strategies.